The reason I came into Dr. Joe's work is because I had limbic brain trauma. And for me, that manifested as chronic pain and mold illness. So I had chronic pain off and on for about 10 years. And then the last 5 years were like pretty freaking horrible. And then I had a vision, and I kind of got some answers on it. So without knowing it, I applied the parts of the formula, but I didn't really understand at that time that I had limbic brain trauma. So that led me to start powerlifting. That's how I cured my chronic pain. And I'd just go and I'd show up at the gym every day and thinking greater than I feel, and getting over the body that had that identity as the chronic pain person, getting rid of all the stuff that was related to the chronic pain. I didn't have it anymore, and it was over. And so I started powerlifting for 2 years. Everything was great. And then I put a reverse osmosis system in my house, which is a water, it takes the fluoride out, so keeping the pineal all healthy. And it wasn't hooked up right. And so it developed like massive colonies of Penicillium and Fusarium. So I was drinking buckets of this water every day because I thought, oh, I'm so healthy. But it was actually taking me down this road. So I got super sick from that. And I ended up having to wear a mask everywhere I would go. And of course, I had a really cool mask. I looked like Bane, I'm like whatever. And it was about 16 months that I went through that. And I've got to the point where I was either going to have to go live in the desert in a camper, or I was just going to kill myself because I had no life. Every environment was not safe for me, and then like most foods would make me sick. And I've always been a very vibrant person, and so this new body was, I didn't want it. It was terrible. And with these weird illnesses, the other like added bonus is that your friends and family all think you're crazy. So I lost people too. So I was really isolated on top of it. So I found this other neuroplasticity program that was based on Dr. Joe's teachings pretty much. And one of the recommended reading was Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And so I go to get the book, and I realize I already have it. And I'm like, oh, let me listen to this. And I was like, oh, I remember this book. And at the time, I kind of thought it was boring, but I wasn't in the right state, which is suffering. So when I was in that state, it became the most interesting thing I ever have read in my entire life. And now I've probably read it like 50 times. Like I still read it all the time. So I got to the point where I was doing pretty good. Like I was really applying the formula. I got over my body, I got over my identity, I got over my emotions, I overcame all that stuff. I didn't associate myself with that illness at all. I didn't speak its name, I didn't talk about my symptoms, I didn't have any of that stuff. And I thought I was doing pretty good. And then I signed up for Niagara, and that was my treat for myself for like doing so good. But I knew I still had problems because I had massive hypothyroidism. I take 2 different hypothyroidism medications. One of the things that happened when I was sick was the insomnia was off the chain. So I'd go 3 days without sleeping. I started mixing pharmaceuticals that were contraindicated because I was just like, I don't care anymore. I'm so desperate. I just want to sleep. So my sleep was still not great, because I was still in fight or flight to some degree. And proving that was my massive amount of impatience. Super, super impatient person. So I had hypothyroidism. I had chronic pain, had come back into my life. Lifting wasn't helping with it. I also knew that I had neurological imbalances still. But it's kind of hard to articulate, but I've become very in tune with my brain. So I knew that my left side sometimes would check out, like my leg would just not lift or do what it was supposed to do. Or I was really clumsy or super forgetful. I still had some anxiety and depression that I was dealing with. So I decided to sign up for healing. And part of me was like, oh, there are so many people that deserve this more than you. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to leave that up to them to decide. And if I get it, I'm going to be just really thankful that I got it. So I came to the event and I got selected. I was on the second night, and I had no idea what was in store for me when I got here. I hadn't reacted to my environment in many, many months. And I never had multiple chemical sensitivity. That was not one of my conditions that a lot of people who have this will also have. When I get to Niagara, I immediately start reacting to everybody's perfumes. And I go up to one of the team volunteers and I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with all these people, you know, and I'm like losing it. And her face was like, and I was like, I must be being a real jerk. Like I was just, rah, you know, and that was part of the impatience thing too. So my body had decided, we're something's big about to change. And so I'm going to bring you some suffering in a way that you least expect it. And so I ended up with a full-blown multiple chemical sensitivity event in the first Coherence Healing. I'm sitting there and they bring a lady in who's fire hosed herself in perfume. That's what it smelled like to me. And I'm coughing, my throat is closing up, I've got tears coming down my eyes, snot's pouring out of my nose, and the best, I pissed my pants. I totally peed my pants. Yeah, you can go ahead and leave that on there, I don't care. Like, because I mean, that's the truth. It was humiliating and horrifying, and I went into fight or flight in the biggest way that I felt. I'm like, run, you gotta run out of the room. What's wrong with this lady? Run, what's wrong with this lady? So then I was like, you know what? You are in fight or flight, and this is what you came here for, and how inappropriate for that to happen right now, but you can't beat yourself up, you just gotta deal with it. So I said to my body, I was like, later boo, you do you, I'm gonna put all my love into this person because that's what I committed to do, and you just do whatever you're gonna do. And that's what I did. And it was a beautiful moment for me, and within minutes, all of my symptoms were gone. They were just gone. And there was a lady sitting next to me, or like 2 people away, and she came over afterwards and she was like, are you okay? And I was like, she knows. Like, I didn't want anybody to know I went through that because, you know, you're not supposed to be doing that in the healing room. And I was like, I'm good. And she was like, no, I felt that. She was like, your energy, you were fighting like this great monster. And she was like, and then you just put it down and your energy shot right up like that. And I was like, well, I'm glad you experienced it like that. It felt a little different for me, but I got there, you know, and that was the important thing. So then I had my healing. And after my healing, I stopped taking sleep medicine, so I don't take that anymore. I sleep deeply and beautifully. It's awesome. And I came off one of my medications by 50%. And sometimes it goes up and sometimes it goes back down, but I'm not sweating it because I know I'm doing work and that I'm gonna get there eventually. I've gotta chop that wood. It might take me a little longer on that one. I don't care. I'm in this, you know, it's a lifetime practice. It's one of the few illnesses that there's no conventional treatment for. Like if you have diabetes or you have, you know, whatever, you can go to the doctor and they've got a protocol and they've got whatever. Mold illness and electromagnetic frequencies and multiple chemical sensitivities are those weird things that nobody really knows what to do with. So you get Myers cocktails, you get glutathione, you get tons and tons of supplements, and you avoid all the things that are dangerous to you because, you know, you're gonna be in flight the rest of your life. That's basically it. So in order to get through it, you literally, the way you heal yourself is by changing your mind. There's no other answer, period, for healing for that. And so I kind of feel, well, I don't kind of, I feel super blessed. I'm like, thank you, mold illness, for picking me because this is awesome. Because I am so in tune with my thoughts, well, most of them. I mean, programs are still coming up for me, right? I've got a lot of wood to chop. But the impatient thing was really interesting. So I got back home and driving in my car where I'd normally be looking, 8 cars ahead of me so that I could like rush to nowhere because I was in a state of fight or flight. That's what impatience is. You want to fly somewhere so then you can be all angry at everybody and feed all those like addictions. I wasn't that person anymore. And it was that alone was worth the whole event to me. I felt more free than I have in so long. I was like, oh, thank you. It feels so good not to have that on your back anymore. One of the most interesting things about my healing, and one of the reasons I wanted to come in here and share this, was also I know there are a lot of people who have the same kind of illness that I have. But so in the whole time that I was sick, I never gave up lifting. Even if I hadn't slept for 3 days, I would still go to the gym, I would still show up and lift. And sometimes it would give me a little bit more energy for the day. Sometimes that was the only thing I did. I didn't gain at all. 2 years I lifted, no gains. And I even had an exemption to wear my mask in competition. So I was like not giving that up. There was just no way. So I get home and I start training, and immediately my 1 rep max in bench press goes up by about 20 or 25 pounds over 2 months. Now, most women my age, 10 pounds a year is pretty amazing. So I had 20, 25 pounds in 2 months. And I'm like, my coach, I'm like, you seeing this? Like, oh my God, like I'm superwoman, And I knew that it was all from the coherence healing, and that what happened was that my brain had suddenly, everything was talking to each other. All that left side checking out, that wasn't going on anymore. And that all the power that I had was finally accessible to me, whereas it wasn't before. And I think it's important for people to know that you don't have to be an athlete for that to happen for you. Because once your brain, if you've been in a wheelchair, you've been on a walker, or whatever it is, you're stronger than you think you are. And I proved it. And so once everything starts syncing up and working, the flower unfolds. And that was really an unexpected benefit. And so I made the US team, and I'm competing in the Czech Republic in 3 months. And so I went from like spoony life, mold illness, victim, whole thing, to now I'm gonna be competing on the national team. I won bench nationals for my division. So I'm really super stoked about that. And if I could get 20 more pounds out of this next retreat, that would be awesome, but I don't care. I'm super happy. And I wanted to share that for people, just keep going, and if you don't get it all in, like if you get a healing or you're working on something, it's not everything goes away overnight. It can take time, and it can go up and it can go down, and just let it unfold and believe and trust, and it'll happen.